In a distant corner of the galaxy where stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas, there existed a planet unlike any other. This planet, known as Lamora Prime, was famous for its floating cities that hovered above shimmering oceans of liquid amethyst. The skies were painted in hues of lavender and gold, and the air carried a faint hum, as though the planet itself was alive and singing softly to its inhabitants. It was here, amidst this breathtaking beauty, that one of the most prestigious institutions in the universe stood, the Galactic Academy of Intergalactic Studies. The Academy was no ordinary school. Its towering spires glowed with bioluminescent energy, casting a soft light over the sprawling campus below. Inside, classrooms buzzed with activity as students from countless species gathered to learn about the vast diversity of life across the cosmos. There were beings who looked like walking crystals, others shaped like clouds of swirling gas, and some who resembled animals. Earthlings might find familiar, but with extra limbs or glowing eyes. Despite their differences, all these students shared a common goal: to understand the universe and their place within it. This year, however, something unusual had caught everyone's attention. A new course had been added to the curriculum, Humanity 101. While humans themselves weren't particularly rare in the galaxy, having spread far beyond their home planet thanks to advanced space travel, they remained mysterious to many alien civilizations. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, and endlessly adaptable, traits that fascinated and sometimes frightened their interstellar neighbors. But what really intrigued the students was the focus of the course: human children. Rumors about the Yao class had spread quickly through the halls of the academy. Some whispered that human children were responsible for entire planetary disasters. Others claimed they could dismantle complex machinery just by looking at it funny. One particularly nervous student, a gelatinous blob named Glorbnik, swore he'd heard that human toddlers once sneaked onto a starship and reprogrammed its navigation system to take them to the nearest candy factory. Whether these stories were true or exaggerated didn't matter. What mattered was the anticipation building among the students. They wanted answers. Why were human children so feared? And more importantly, what made them so strange? On the first day of Humanity 101, the classroom was packed. Every seat was occupied, and even the corners of the room were filled with hovering creatures too excited to sit still. At the front of the room stood Professor Zixor, a tall, translucent being whose body shimmered like glass under sunlight. He moved gracefully, leaving trails of sparkling dust in his wake, a side effect of his unique physiology. His voice, when he spoke, resonated deeply, almost vibrating through the bones of those listening. "Welcome, students," he began, his tone warm but commanding. "Today marks the beginning of our exploration into one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood phenomena in the universe: human children." As he spoke, holographic images flickered to life behind him. Scenes of human kids playing in parks, laughing in classrooms, and running through fields filled the air. To the untrained eye, these images seemed harmless enough. But as the professor continued, a subtle shift occurred in the atmosphere of the room. "These small beings," Zixor explained, gesturing toward the holograms, "have earned a reputation across galaxies. They are known for their boundless energy, their relentless curiosity, and their ability to turn order into chaos in mere moments. Entire diplomatic missions have been derailed because of them. Trade agreements have collapsed due to their antics. Even seasoned explorers have returned from Earth shaking their heads, wondering how such tiny creatures can wield such immense power." A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd. Many of the students exchanged skeptical glances. How could something so small cause so much trouble? Wasn't this just another exaggerated myth passed down through generations? Sensing their doubt, Zixor smiled knowingly. "I see skepticism on your faces," he said, "and rightly so. After all, how can we trust rumors without evidence? That is why this course will not rely solely on hearsay or second-hand accounts. Instead, we will delve deep into the heart of humanity's youngest members. We will observe, analyze, and yes, perhaps even interact with them." At this, the room erupted into a mix of excitement and apprehension. A squid-like creature named Blorp, raised one of its many tentacles hesitantly. "Professor?" it asked, its voice trembling slightly. "How dangerous are human children exactly? Are they violent?" Zixer chuckled, though his expression remained serious. "Not necessarily violent, Blorp, but they are unpredictable. Imagine trying to teach mathematics to a being whose attention span lasts only as long as it takes to chase after a butterfly, or in their case, a digital device emitting colorful lights. Imagine negotiating peace treaties while someone tugs at your robes and demands snacks. Now multiply that by billions. That is the challenge and the wonder of human children." As the lecture continued, the professor introduced key concepts that would guide their studies: adaptability, creativity, curiosity, and resilience. These traits, he explained, were the foundation of humanity's success as a species. Yet they also contributed to the chaos that surrounded human children. For every child who built a functioning robot out of spare parts, there was another who decided it would be fun to throw said robot into a swimming pool. For every budding artist painting masterpieces, there was a sibling gleefully scribbling over the artwork with permanent markers. By the end of the session, the students were both intrigued and intimidated. Some leaned forward eagerly, eager to uncover the secrets of these enigmatic beings. Others sat back nervously, already imagining worst-case scenarios involving sticky fingers and broken gadgets. Regardless of their feelings, one thing was clear: this course was going to be unlike anything they had experienced before. Before dismissing the class, Zixor gave them their first assignment. "Tomorrow," he announced, "we will embark on a virtual reality field trip to Earth. You will witness firsthand the world of human children, their playgrounds, their schools, their homes. Be prepared. It may not always make sense. But remember, understanding begins with observation." Class dismissed. As the students filed out of the room, their conversations buzzed with speculation. What would they see on Earth? Would the stories prove true? And most importantly, would they survive the experience? Little did they know, their journey into the chaotic, unpredictable, and utterly captivating world of human children was only just beginning. The next day, the students of the Galactic Academy gathered in the virtual reality lab, their excitement tinged with nervous anticipation. The room was dimly lit, with glowing panels lining the walls and a large circular platform at its center. This was where the magic, or perhaps the chaos, would happen. Professor Zixor stood nearby, his translucent form shimmering faintly as he adjusted the settings on the VR equipment. Around him, the students buzzed with quiet chatter, each speculating about what they were about to witness. "Remember," Zixor reminded them as he handed out sleek headsets, "what you are about to experience is not just a simulation. It's as close to being physically present on Earth as technology allows. You will see, hear, and even feel elements of the environment. But do not interfere. Your presence is invisible to the humans you observe. Stay calm, stay curious, and most importantly, stay safe." With those words, the students donned their headsets and the world around them dissolved into darkness. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, gradually, shapes began to emerge. The scene brightened, revealing a vibrant playground, bathed in golden sunlight. Children of all ages darted around, their laughter echoing through the air like music. Swings creaked rhythmically, slides gleamed under the sun, and sandboxes overflowed with tiny architects building castles that would inevitably crumble. At first glance, it seemed peaceful, a place of joy and innocence. But the aliens quickly realized this was only the surface. Within moments, the unpredictable nature of human children revealed itself. A group of boys raced across the grass, shouting incomprehensible phrases while waving sticks they claimed were swords. One of them tripped over a rock, sending his companions into fits of giggles. Nearby, two girls argued heatedly over whose turn it was on the swing set, their voices rising until one stomped away dramatically, leaving the other victorious but confused. Then came the incidents that truly tested the students' composure. In one corner of the playground, a small boy had decided to experiment with marbles and a water fountain. His goal? To see how many marbles could fit inside before the water overflowed. The result? A miniature flood that soaked the surrounding area, prompting shrieks of delight from some children and complaints from others. Meanwhile, a gang of older kids declared war on boredom by organizing an impromptu mud fight. Armed with handfuls of wet earth, they flung projectiles at each other, turning pristine sneakers into soggy messes and transforming the sandbox into something resembling a swamp. The aliens watched in stunned fascination and growing unease as the chaos unfolded. Blorp, the squid-like creature, recoiled when a particularly ambitious child attempted to climb the jungle gym using unconventional methods, upside down. Another student, Lurka, a reptilian being with iridescent scales, gasped audibly as she witnessed a toddler shove an entire sandwich into her mouth, including the wrapper. Kurz, the insectoid with multiple legs, twitched nervously every time a child ran too close to the holographic edge of the observation zone, fearing they might somehow break through. But perhaps the most shocking moment occurred when a young, human boy approached a teacher supervising the playground. She stood casually, sipping coffee from a thermos and chatting with another adult. Unbeknownst to her, the boy had retrieved a length of jump rope from a nearby pile. With stealthy precision, he looped the rope around her ankles and tied it tightly. Before anyone could react, the teacher took a step forward, only to stumble spectacularly onto the ground. The children erupted into cheers, clapping and laughing as though they'd just witnessed the greatest performance of their lives. By the time the simulation ended, the students removed their headsets with wide eyes and furrowed brows. They exchanged looks of disbelief, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or retreat to safer corners of the galaxy. "They're chaotic," muttered Glorbnik, the gelatinous blob, his voice trembling slightly. "How do humans even manage to keep up with them?" Professor Zixor chuckled softly, though his expression remained thoughtful. "That is precisely what we must uncover," he replied. "Human children operate on a level of spontaneity and creativity that often defies logic. To understand why they behave this way, and why they are both admired and feared, we need to dig deeper. Let us now divide into teams and focus on specific aspects of their behavior." With that, the class split into 3 groups: Team Chaos, Team Mayhem, and Team Wildcard. Each team was tasked with studying a different facet of human children's personalities, using archived footage and interactive simulations to gather data. As they dispersed to begin their research, the students couldn't help but wonder if they were ready for what lay ahead. Team Chaos focused on creativity, observing how human children turned ordinary objects into tools for imagination. They watched recordings of a classroom where a teacher handed out cardboard boxes and markers, encouraging the students to build whatever they desired. What followed was nothing short of astonishing. Some children constructed elaborate spaceships, complete with control panels drawn in crayon. Others transformed their boxes into castles, fortresses, or even robots. One particularly inventive child added sound effects by clapping her hands and making engine noises, convincing everyone else to join in. The aliens found themselves mesmerized by the sheer ingenuity on display. Yet they also noted how rules seemed to shift constantly during playtime. One moment, the spaceship required pilots. The next, it became a pirate ship needing captains. It was exhilarating, but also exhausting to follow. Meanwhile, Team Mayhem delved into curiosity, analyzing videos of toddlers exploring their environments. These tiny humans appeared fearless, touching, tasting, and testing everything within reach. One clip showed a baby crawling toward an electrical outlet, only to be intercepted by a vigilant parent just in time. Another depicted a group of preschoolers, dismantling a toy robot to figure out how it worked, scattering screws and wires across the floor. While the aliens admired the insatiable drive to learn, they couldn't ignore the potential dangers. "It's like they have no concept of consequences," remarked Lurka, shaking her head. "Do humans ever worry about what might happen?" Finally, Team Wildcard examined social dynamics, documenting how friendships formed and dissolved with dizzying speed. They observed a group of children playing tag, only for one participant to suddenly declare himself king and demand everyone bow to him. When the others refused, a mock battle ensued, complete with dramatic declarations of betrayal and loyalty. Later, the same group reconvened to share snacks, acting as though nothing had happened. The aliens struggled to comprehend the fluidity of these relationships. "It's like they're performing a cosmic dance," mused Kurz. "Every step leads somewhere new." As the hours passed, the students grew increasingly engrossed in their findings. Despite the initial shock and occasional exasperation, they couldn't deny the brilliance behind the chaos. Human children weren't merely causing trouble. They were creating worlds, solving problems, and forging connections in ways that defied conventional wisdom. Still, questions lingered. How did humanity thrive with such unpredictability at its core? And why did so many civilizations view these traits as threatening rather than inspiring? When the teams reconvened later that evening, they shared their observations with mixed emotions. Some felt admiration for the boundless energy and innovation displayed by human children. Others remained wary, uncertain if they could ever fully grasp or endure the whirlwind of activity that defined them. But one thing was clear: understanding human children was going to take more than analysis. It would require empathy, patience, and perhaps a touch of courage. Professor Zixor listened intently as each team presented their findings. When they finished, he nodded approvingly. "You've taken the first step," he said. "But remember, knowledge alone isn't enough. To truly understand human children, you must engage with them directly. Only then will you see beyond the chaos and discover the extraordinary potential hidden within." The students exchanged uneasy glances. Engaging directly? That sounded daunting. Nevertheless, they knew they had no choice but to continue. After all, this was the Galactic Academy, where challenges were opportunities in disguise. Little did they know their next encounter with human children would bring them closer to unraveling the mystery and confronting their own fears than ever before. The following week, the students of the Galactic Academy prepared for their next assignment: direct interaction with human children. It was a daunting prospect, one that filled many of them with equal parts excitement and dread. Professor Zixor had announced that they would be using advanced teleportation technology to bring a group of human children to the Academy for a day. The aliens were tasked with designing activities and games to engage their young visitors, ensuring the experience was both educational and entertaining for everyone involved. As the students gathered in the main hall to discuss their plans, the air buzzed with nervous energy. Blorp, the squid-like creature, floated anxiously near the ceiling, his tentacles twitching as he fretted over potential disasters. "What if they try to eat us?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Or worse, what if they start asking questions we can't answer?" Lurka, the reptilian student with shimmering scales, rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a small chuckle. "Relax, Blorp," she said. "They're just kids. How bad could it be?" Kurz, the insectoid with multiple legs, clicked his mandibles, nervously. "You didn't see the playground simulation," he reminded her. "These kids turned sandboxes into swamps and tied ropes around teachers' ankles. I'm not sure we're ready for this." Despite their apprehension, the students knew they couldn't back down. This was their chance to move beyond observation and truly understand human children. With Professor Zixor's guidance, they divided into teams once again, each responsible for creating an activity designed to showcase different aspects of human behavior while keeping things fun and manageable. Team Chaos took charge of the creativity station, setting up a sprawling area filled with art supplies, building materials, and musical instruments. Their goal was to encourage the children to express themselves freely, while studying how they approach tasks without rigid rules or instructions. They laid out tables covered in colorful paper, markers, glue sticks, and glitter, much to Glorbnik's dismay, who worried about cleanup. Nearby, they constructed a mini obstacle course made of foam blocks and tunnels, hoping to inspire imaginative play. Meanwhile, Team Mayhem focused on curiosity, preparing a science-themed exploration zone. They arranged experiments involving magnets, water droplets, and simple machines, inviting the children to touch, test, and tinker. Lurka even suggested including a mystery box filled with everyday objects: spoons, socks, rubber bands, and challenging the kids to invent new uses for them. "Let's see how far their curiosity takes them," she said with a grin. Finally, Team Wildcard tackled social dynamics by organizing group games like tag, hide and seek, and a collaborative puzzle-building challenge. They also set up a storytelling corner where the children could create their own tales using puppets and props. Kurz, despite his nerves, volunteered to oversee the storytelling session, reasoning that listening to stories might help him better understand the unpredictable nature of human relationships. With everything in place, the students braced themselves for the arrival of their guests. When the teleportation portal activated, glowing with a soft blue light, there was a collective intake of breath. One by one, the human children stepped through, blinking in awe at the alien surroundings. There were 6 of them in total. 3 boys and 3 girls ranging in age from 5 to 10. Their wide eyes darted around the room, taking in the floating cities outside the windows, the shimmering walls, and the nervous yet eager faces of their hosts. "Welcome," Professor Zixor greeted them warmly, his voice resonating through the hall. "Today you are our special guests. We have prepared many activities for you to enjoy. Feel free to explore and ask questions. We are here to learn from each other." The Vrau. Children exchanged excited glances before scattering in all directions. Almost immediately, pandemonium ensued, but in the best possible way. At the creativity station, the kids dove headfirst into the art supplies. One boy decided to use an entire bottle of glitter to decorate his drawing, resulting in a sparkly explosion that left nearby aliens shielding their eyes. Another child built a towering structure out of foam blocks, only to knock it down gleefully with a triumphant shout. A girl grabbed a handful of markers and began drawing directly on the wall, prompting Blorp to hover closer in panic. "Should we stop her?" he whispered frantically to Lurka. "No," Lurka replied, shaking her head. "This is part of the experiment. Let's see what happens." Sure enough, the girl stopped after a few minutes, proudly showing off her mural of what appeared to be a spaceship piloted by a cat. The aliens stared in amazement, unsure whether to applaud or clean up the mess. Eventually, they settled for both. Over at the science zone, the children proved equally enthusiastic and equally unpredictable. One curious boy stuck 2 magnets together so forcefully that they flew apart and clattered across the floor. Another poured an entire pitcher of water onto a table to test how droplets behaved when spilled, not realizing the table wasn't waterproof. Lurka intervened quickly, using her tail to siphon away the water before any damage occurred. Meanwhile, the mystery box proved wildly popular, with the kids inventing creative ways to repurpose its contents. A sock became a puppet, a spoon turned into a microphone, and a rubber band morphed into a makeshift slingshot, which nearly hit Glorbnik, much to his horror. The group games organized by Team Wildcard brought another level of chaos. During tag, the children zipped around the room at breakneck speed, weaving between startled aliens and occasionally tagging them by mistake. One particularly energetic boy declared himself "it" permanently, refusing to relinquish the title, even as others begged for a turn. Hide and seek devolved into giggling fits when one girl accidentally locked herself inside a supply closet, requiring Professor Zixor to rescue her. In the storytelling corner, Kurz found himself overwhelmed, but oddly charmed. The children eagerly grabbed puppets and began crafting elaborate tales about intergalactic adventures, featuring talking animals, robot sidekicks, and heroic aliens. One story involved a brave jellyfish princess, clearly inspired by Blorp, saving a planet from destruction using nothing but bubbles. Another featured a shy bug warrior, a nod to Kurz's, defeating a dragon with a clever riddle. By the end of the session, Kurz's realized he hadn't just been listening to stories. He'd been learning about teamwork, imagination, and the power of narrative. As the day wore on, the initial chaos gave way to a sense of camaraderie. The children laughed, played, and explored alongside their alien hosts, bridging cultural gaps with surprising ease. Even the most anxious students found themselves relaxing, marveling at the boundless energy and creativity displayed by their young visitors. Blorp discovered that being covered in glitter wasn't so bad when it came with a hug from a smiling child. Lurka learned that curiosity, though messy, was a force for discovery and growth, and Kriz realized that unpredictability wasn't always a threat. It could also be a source of joy. By the time the teleportation portal reactivated to send the children home, the aliens felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The children waved goodbye enthusiastically, leaving behind sticky fingerprints, scattered toys, and fond memories. As the portal closed, the students gathered in the now quiet hall, reflecting on the whirlwind of a day. "Well," Professor Zixer said with a satisfied smile, "what did you learn?" The students hesitated, searching for words to capture the complexity of their experience. Finally, Glorbnik spoke up. "They're incredible," he admitted. "Chaotic, yes, but also brilliant. I've never seen anything like it." Lurka nodded in agreement. "Their curiosity knows no bounds. They don't just observe, they interact, experiment, and adapt. No wonder humanity has spread so far." Kurz added thoughtfully. "And their social skills, they're messy, but they work. They connect with each other in ways that seem chaotic but somehow make sense." Professor Zixer beamed at his students. "Exactly," he said. "Human children embody the essence of humanity itself. Unpredictable, adaptable, and endlessly inventive. They may cause chaos, but they also create solutions, build bridges, and inspire change. That is why they are feared and respected across the galaxy." As the students cleaned up the remnants of their eventful day, they couldn't help but smile. Though they had started the course wary of human children, they now understood their reputation wasn't entirely negative. Yes, they were wild and unpredictable, but they were also full of potential, capable of turning disorder into opportunity. For the first time, the aliens felt less afraid and more awestruck by the tiny beings who had captured the attention of the cosmos. Little did they know, their journey was far from over. The lessons they had learned that day would stay with them long after the course ended, shaping how they viewed not just humanity, but themselves. By the end of the week, the students of the Galactic Academy were buzzing with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The visit from the human children had been an unforgettable experience, a whirlwind of laughter, chaos, and unexpected connections that left everyone reeling. As they gathered in the main hall once again for their final debriefing session, the room was alive with chatter. Each student had their own story to share, their own perspective on what they had witnessed and learned. Professor Zixer stood at the front of the room, his translucent form glowing softly under the bioluminescent lights. He listened patiently as the students recounted their interactions with the children, nodding occasionally and jotting down notes on a holographic tablet. When the room finally quieted down, he cleared his throat and addressed the class. "Today," he began, his voice resonating with calm authority, "we will synthesize everything you've observed and experienced into a comprehensive understanding of human children. Your findings will form the basis of your final presentations, and more importantly, they will shape how you view humanity as a whole." With those words, the students split into their teams once again, each tasked with organizing their insights into a cohesive narrative. Team Chaos, Team Mayhem, and Team Wildcard worked tirelessly throughout the day, piecing together observations, anecdotes, and data collected during the virtual simulations and the hands-on visit. By evening, they reconvened to present their conclusions to the rest of the class. Team Chaos went first, led by Glorbnik, who appeared slightly less jittery than usual despite the weight of the presentation. Using holographic projections, they showcased images of the children's creative endeavors, glitter-covered murals, foam block castles, and musical instruments played in unconventional ways. "Human children are natural innovators," Glorbnik explained, his voice steadier now. "They don't follow rigid rules. They make their own. A piece of paper becomes a spaceship, a stick turns into a sword, and a pile of blocks transforms into anything they imagine." He paused, gesturing toward a video clip of a boy building a makeshift bridge out of cardboard boxes to cross an imaginary river. Their creativity isn't just about fun, it's problem-solving. They see possibilities where others see limitations. But this adaptability comes at a cost. Their constant reinvention can be overwhelming even for adults. That's why some civilizations fear them, not because they're dangerous, but because they challenge the status quo. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Human children weren't simply chaotic. They were agents of change, disrupting order not out of malice but out of sheer curiosity and imagination. Next up was Team Mayhem, represented by Lurka, whose iridescent scales shimmered with excitement as she stepped forward. She began with footage of the science experiments, the magnet mishaps, the water spills, and the mystery box creations. "Curiosity drives human children," she said confidently. "They want to know how things work, why they exist, and what happens if you push boundaries. This relentless questioning leads to discovery, but also destruction." She highlighted a moment when one child had dismantled a toy robot to examine its inner workings. To us it might seem reckless or wasteful, but to them it's exploration. Every action is a step toward understanding their world. And while this trait can cause trouble, like flooding a sandbox or breaking equipment, it's also what makes humans so adaptable and resilient. Lurka concluded with a poignant observation. "Fear often stems from misunderstanding. We see their curiosity as dangerous because we don't fully grasp its purpose. But without it, humanity wouldn't have achieved the incredible feats that inspire awe across the galaxy." Finally, Team Wildcard took the stage, with Kurz clicking his mandibles nervously before speaking. Behind him, holograms displayed scenes of tag games, storytelling sessions, and collaborative puzzles. "Social dynamics among human children are unpredictable," he admitted, drawing a few chuckles from the audience. "Friendships form and dissolve within minutes. Arguments erupt over trivial matters only to be forgotten seconds later. Yet, through all the chaos, there is a remarkable sense of connection." He pointed to a clip of the children working together to solve a puzzle. Even when they disagree or outright fight, they find ways to cooperate. Their social skills aren't perfect, but they're effective. They learn to negotiate, compromise, and empathize, often without realizing it. These interactions teach them resilience and adaptability, traits that serve them well as adults. Kurz hesitated briefly before adding, "I used to think human children were feared because they're uncontrollable. Now I realize it's because they're unpredictable, not in a negative way, but in a way that challenges others to keep up. They remind us that life isn't always orderly or predictable, and maybe that's okay." As the presentations wrapped up, the students exchanged thoughtful glances. Each team had uncovered a different facet of human children's behavior, yet their findings overlapped in intriguing ways. Creativity, curiosity, and social dynamics, all rooted in unpredictability, were the threads that wove together the complex tapestry of human childhood. These traits explained why human children inspired both admiration and apprehension across the galaxy. Professor Zixor nodded approvingly as the last hologram faded. "Excellent work," he said, his tone warm with pride. "You've captured the essence of human children beautifully. But there's one question we haven't fully addressed yet." He turned to face the class, his gaze sweeping over the students. "If human children are so chaotic, so unpredictable, and so challenging, why hasn't humanity gone extinct? Why do they continue to thrive despite, or perhaps because of, these traits?" The room fell silent as the students pondered the question. It was a shy insectoid student named Flitz who finally raised a tentative leg. "Could it be because their unpredictability is also their strength?" he suggested quietly. "They adapt quickly, come up with new ideas, and work together to overcome obstacles. Maybe their chaos helps them survive." Zixor smiled, his expression one of quiet approval. "Precisely," he replied. "Humanity thrives not in spite of its unpredictability, but because of it. Their ability to innovate, adapt, and connect allows them to navigate challenges that would overwhelm other species. Human children embody these traits in their purest form. Yes, they cause chaos, but they also create solutions, art, and progress. Their unpredictability isn't a flaw, it's a feature." The professor's words lingered in the air, sparking a wave of realization among the students. They had entered the course fearing human children, viewing them as agents of disorder and disruption. But now, they saw something else entirely. Potential. Human children weren't just chaotic, they were dynamic, capable of turning chaos into opportunity. They weren't merely unpredictable, they were adaptable, resilient, and endlessly inventive. Before dismissing the class, Zixor issued one final challenge. For your closing assignment, he announced, you will reflect on what you've learned and write a personal essay answering this question. What can we, as representatives of our respective species, learn from human children? How can their traits, creativity, curiosity, and adaptability inspire us to grow and evolve? The students murmured among themselves, intrigued by the task. For many, it felt like the culmination of their journey, a chance to internalize the lessons they had gleaned from studying humanity's youngest members. As they filed out of the room, notebooks in hand, they couldn't help but feel a newfound respect for human children. They were no longer just subjects of study. They were teachers, offering insights into the nature of resilience, innovation, and connection. That night, as the academy's glowing spires cast soft light over the campus, the students sat in their dormitories, pens scratching against paper as they poured their thoughts onto the page. Some wrote about the importance of embracing curiosity, urging their fellow aliens to ask bold questions and seek answers beyond traditional boundaries. Others reflected on the value of creativity, encouraging their peers to experiment and take risks in pursuit of progress. Still others focused on the power of social bonds, emphasizing the need for collaboration and empathy in overcoming challenges. By morning, the essays were complete. When the students returned to class, they shared excerpts of their reflections, each voice adding depth and nuance to the collective understanding of human children. Blorp spoke of how the children's boundless energy reminded him to approach life with enthusiasm. Lurka described how their curiosity inspired her to explore unfamiliar territories, both literal and metaphorical. Kurz admitted that their social fluidity had taught him the importance of flexibility in relationships. As the session drew to a close, Professor Zixor stood once again, his shimmering form radiating wisdom. "You've come a long way since the beginning of this course," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You started with fear and skepticism, but you leave with admiration and insight. Remember, understanding humanity, especially its children, isn't just about studying another species. It's about learning more about ourselves and our place in the universe." With those parting words, the professor dismissed the class, leaving the students to reflect on their transformative journey. They had entered the course wary of human children, but they emerged with a profound. The final day of Humanity 101 arrived, and the atmosphere at the Galactic Academy was charged with anticipation. The students had spent weeks studying human children, observing their chaos, marveling at their creativity, and grappling with their unpredictability. Now, it was time to present their findings in a grand culmination of the course. The auditorium buzzed with excitement as students from other departments joined the audience, eager to learn about the enigmatic beings who had captured the galaxy's imagination. Professor Zixor stood at the podium, his translucent form glowing softly under the spotlight. "Today," he began, addressing the packed hall, "we celebrate not just the completion of this course, but also the growth of our understanding. Human children are more than a subject of study. They are a mirror reflecting humanity's adaptability, resilience, and potential. Let us now hear from those who have journeyed deep into their world." One by one, the teams took the stage, delivering presentations that combined data, personal anecdotes, and heartfelt reflections. Team Chaos led off with a dynamic display of holographic images showcasing human children's boundless creativity. Glorbnik, still slightly jittery but brimming with confidence, narrated scenes of glitter-covered murals, cardboard spaceships, and musical instruments played in unconventional ways. "Human children don't see limitations," he explained, his voice steady. "They turn everyday objects into tools for imagination. Their chaos isn't random, it's purposeful, It challenges us to rethink what's possible. Next came Team Mayhem, represented by Lurka, whose iridescent scales shimmered under the stage lights. She recounted moments of curiosity-driven experimentation, magnets flying apart, water spills turning into science lessons, and mystery boxes inspiring ingenious inventions. Their curiosity is relentless, she said, her tone filled with admiration. It leads them to explore, question, and innovate. Yes, it can cause trouble, but it also drives progress. Without it, humanity wouldn't be where it is today. Finally, Team Wildcard stepped forward, with Kurz clicking his mandibles nervously before speaking. Behind him, holograms depicted tag games, storytelling sessions, and collaborative puzzles. Human children's social dynamics are messy but effective, he admitted, drawing laughter from the audience. They argue, they laugh, they forgive, all within minutes. Through these interactions, they learn resilience, empathy, and teamwork. They remind us that connection is key to overcoming challenges. Each presentation painted a vivid picture of human children, not as chaotic nuisances, but as agents of change and innovation. The audience listened intently, captivated by the stories and insights shared by their peers. By the end of the presentations, even skeptics found themselves nodding in agreement. Human children were indeed extraordinary, embodying traits that inspired both fear and admiration across the galaxy. As the applause faded, Professor Zixor invited the students to participate in a Q&A session. Hands shot up across the room, each alien eager to ask questions or share thoughts. One particularly curious student, a cloud-like entity named Fluffernox, floated forward. "Professor," it asked, its voice echoing like a gentle breeze, "why do you think human children inspire so much fear among other species? Is it just because of their unpredictability?" Zixor smiled, his expression thoughtful. "Fear often stems from misunderstanding," he replied. "When we encounter something unfamiliar, especially something as unpredictable as human children, our instinct is to label it as dangerous. But as our students have shown, unpredictability isn't inherently negative. In fact, it's a source of strength. Human children challenge norms, push boundaries, and create new possibilities. To fear them is to misunderstand their potential." Another student, a crystalline being named Shardax, chimed in. "But isn't there a risk in embracing too much unpredictability?" it asked. "Order and structure are essential for civilizations to function. How do humans balance chaos with stability?" It was Kurz who answered, surprising even himself. "That's the beauty of it," he said, his mandibles clicking softly. "Humans thrive on balance. They embrace chaos when it serves a purpose, invention, exploration, growth, but they also value order when needed. Human children may seem wild, but they're learning to navigate both sides. And through that process, they become adaptable adults capable of thriving in any situation." The discussion continued, with students sharing insights and debating perspectives. Some argued that humanity's success lay in its ability to blend chaos and order seamlessly. Others pointed out that human children's unpredictability forced others to adapt, fostering resilience and innovation across civilizations. The debate was lively, thought-provoking, and ultimately enlightening. After the Q&A session, Zixor announced the final activity of the course, an open forum for reflection. He encouraged the students to share how their perceptions of human children and humanity as a whole had changed over the semester. Blorp, the squid-like creature, floated hesitantly to the front of the room. "At first I thought human children were, well, terrifying," he admitted, eliciting chuckles from the audience. "But now I see them differently. They're tiny, forces of nature full of energy and potential. They remind me that life doesn't always have to make sense, it just has to keep moving forward." Lurka followed, her scales shimmering with pride. "I used to think curiosity was risky," she said. "But watching human children taught me that taking risks is how we grow. They aren't afraid to fail because every failure brings them closer to success. That's something we can all learn from." Kurz, emboldened by his earlier contributions, added his own thoughts. Human children showed me that relationships aren't perfect, and that's okay. Their messiness teaches us to be flexible, to forgive, and to connect despite differences. Maybe that's why humans have spread so far. They know how to build bridges even in chaos. The reflections went on, each student offering a unique perspective shaped by their experiences. Some spoke of inspiration, others of admiration, and a few admitted lingering apprehension, but all agreed that their understanding of human children had deepened profoundly. As the forum drew to a close, Zixor addressed the class one last time. "You've accomplished something remarkable," he said, his voice resonating with pride. "You started this course fearing human children, viewing them as unpredictable and dangerous. But you leave with a deeper appreciation for their brilliance and potential. Remember, fear fades when replaced with understanding. Human children aren't just feared across the galaxy, they're respected. They represent infinite possibility, reminding us that chaos and creativity go hand in hand." With those words, the professor dismissed the class, leaving the students to reflect on their transformative journey. They had entered the course wary of human children, but they emerged with a profound respect for their ingenuity and spirit. Though the semester was ending, the lessons they had learned would stay with them forever, shaping how they viewed not just humanity, but the universe itself. In the days that followed, the students returned to their respective departments, carrying newfound knowledge and courage. For many, the course had sparked a desire to explore further, to seek out other mysteries hidden across the stars. Others resolved to apply what they had learned, using human children's traits of creativity, curiosity, and adaptability to improve their own societies. Blorp, once fearful of sticky fingers and glitter explosions, volunteered to mentor young aliens, encouraging them to embrace their imaginations without fear. Lurka spearheaded a project to establish interstellar exchange programs, believing that exposure to diverse cultures fostered growth and innovation. Kurz, inspired by human children's social fluidity, became an advocate for collaboration between species, emphasizing the importance of connection in overcoming challenges. Even Professor Zixor felt a renewed sense of purpose. Watching his students transform from skeptics to admirers reminded him why he had dedicated his life to teaching. Humanity wasn't perfect, but perhaps that was the point. Its imperfections made it endlessly fascinating, a testament to the power of adaptation and resilience. As the academy's spires glowed softly against the night sky, the students gazed upward, their minds filled with dreams of discovery. They knew their encounter with human children was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, countless mysteries awaited, each holding the promise of transformation and growth. And armed with newfound knowledge and courage, the students of the Galactic Academy were ready to face whatever came next. For in the end, they had learned that chaos wasn't something to fear, it was something to embrace. After all, it was in the heart of chaos that the greatest stories were born.